Okay, so I think we can probably get started. If anybody wants to, they can still join us. So thanks for coming. As you know, this is our trampoline pitch workshop. Mandatory, as we just discussed, for if you want to participate in the pitch. Pitch is $1,000, and the reason we do this here at Fanshawe is because we also participate in the Siege Startup, which is a joint pitch competition with Western. And that one has two categories, product and service or a technology category, and the opportunity there is to win $3,000, and there's two winners that day. That one's happening on April 5th. And we have one Fanshawe spot guaranteed at the Siege Startup because it's a joint competition we have. So we'd like to see one of you guys travel with us to Western and win.
So will the winner of this one get to go to Western? Is that how that works?
No, it's not how it works.
Okay.
It won't be necessarily that. You have to have an application process that goes in for the separately for Siege Startup, and it will be open to all students as well. But you know, taking this is kind of our hope to groom you to help you with it. And this is just a 60-second pitch. The one at Western is 7 to 8 minutes plus questions. So it's really delving deep into, you know, your idea or your business or whatever. And we did have a Fanshawe student win. I think it was about 3 years ago now. Yeah. So, and he did it remotely via video, and he still won. Without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Anna Foat. I had to write this down. She is Special Advisor to the Chief Transformation Officer at Sun Life. Anna's a really interesting person. She does a lot of great stuff around design thinking and is a great workshop facilitator, and you're going to love this one on what to do in a great pitch. So let me welcome Anna to chat with you.
Hey guys, how are you doing? I hear this is mandatory, but I promise it will also be fun. So don't worry, but I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much for the great introduction, and that I love entrepreneurs, and it's so fun to be back in a school.
Can you just
Sorry. Not for your benefit, because I'm loud. But it's so great to be back in a school talking to young people about kind of their dreams and aspirations. I spent a lot of time in my career in sales and marketing and business development, so I'm pretty passionate about pitching and the ways to do it most effectively. And the challenge with a lot of entrepreneurs is they have amazing ideas, but usually the people with those amazing ideas, sales is not really their sweet spot, and pitching is not their sweet spot. So it would be the worst tragedy in the entire world if you had some groundbreaking idea, but your ability to pitch to other people how wonderful your idea is kind of falls flat and it never moved forward. So we're going to spend a little time today talking about kind of how to do it, because part of the opportunity is entrepreneurship is like kind of really sexy these days. It used to be that it was like, oh, you're an entrepreneur, you don't have a job. Now it's more like, oh, wow, you're an entrepreneur, like what are you doing? That's really interesting. I was telling Annette, I was at the Lazarita School of Business a couple weeks ago, and David Chilton is an ex-alumni, and he spoke. And I was watching before the event, and there were like a group of guys that were practicing, and they were all like trying to be cool. They noticed who he was, but they're like, hey man. And then I saw this group of ladies who saw him and went over and were very professional and, you know, thank you so much, and we're such a fan. And the minute he turned the corner, they went, squee! Like, and I thought, it's a sign of the times that, you know, a 50-something-year-old man is making 20, 18, 19-year-olds squeal. But I think they were really excited for the opportunity to meet him. So I'm going to spend some time today talking specifically about how a pitch ideally should work, but then we're going to figure out how, once you know the rules, how to break them. Because now, because entrepreneurship and pitching and Dragon's Den and Shark Tank and all these competitions are much more prevalent than even they were 5 or 10 years ago, everyone kind of believes they're like, yeah, I know how to do it. And there's more people doing it, so it's harder to stand out. And ultimately, that's what you want to do, right? You want someone to remember not only you and your idea, but then give you either money, resources, time, or whatever you need to move forward. Let me just grab my remote here. So welcome. We're going to talk first about the ugly. So I'm going to have you guys share, because it's a small enough room that we can get a sense and interact a little bit. Don't worry about embarrassing yourself, because we're going to talk about all the things not to do first. So that way you won't inadvertently do any of the kind of 5 deadly sins. Then we're going to talk about the good parts of a pitch and really what to work on. I'm going to have you go off and kind of either sticky note it or write it in a book or kind of prep a little 60 seconds, and then we'll practice it a little bit. I'll show you a couple funny videos that kind of highlight the point a little more, and then we'll wrap up with the extra magic secret sauce that is my personal secret sauce that I think might really help you in the competition. So first, the ugly. We'll talk about the things to never, 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 ever do. The first one, and this is really prevalent, we are unique. Lots of people pitch a product or service or company and talk about how they're unique. I hate to break it to you, there's not a ton of truly unique ideas left in the world, and that is totally okay. You can take an existing idea and make it better, faster, a different spin on it. Saying that you're unique as like a value statement not only probably isn't true, because there's probably someone somewhere in the world thinking about the problem the same way you are, it doesn't really say anything about your product. So like, unique compared to what? So you know, you're not doing yourself any favors, and you're really not elevating the thing that you're trying to pitch. We are the Airbnb, Uber, WordPress of XYZ industry. Tons of people do this. It's one of my personal pet peeves. I know why people do it, and they do it because it's easy to make that analogy where people go, oh, okay, you're like this for this. Got it. But usually it's not a direct one-to-one, and oftentimes there's parts of what you're doing that aren't really like the other company, and you might spend more time trying to back out when someone goes, oh, so your company works like this? And you're like, well, no, not exactly. Than if you just told them what it was you were doing in the first place. And worst case scenario, you're not really saying anything about your company. So like, if you kind of think of it like, we're the Airbnb of, it's like, dude, you're a one person with an idea. You're not an Airbnb of anything quite yet, so like, hold your horses. But then the other side of that is, again, you're not talking in quantitative terms about what it is you do and why it is you're doing it. I think we can do better than this. This one I think people do inadvertently. We've been working on this for 4 years, and it's awesome. I'm awesome, you're awesome, we're all awesome. I love being awesome because being awesome is awesome. But basically this falls into the same category as saying your site crashed because you had such amazing uptake on your launch. It doesn't say a whole lot, and I think it's filler. So just be cognizant of this as well. We are going to change the world, the search, mobile, blogging. We are the first of many companies that are going to create a whole new category and change things forever. This one, it's good if you're confident about the product, but again, doesn't say anything, and it sounds really cocky. Some of the best pitches are pretty humble in terms of where they're coming from and the message that they're trying to articulate. So I've heard people who are not arrogant people fall into this trap and really come off as sounding kind of like jerks on stage, and you sit there in the audience and you're like, gah, they're so not that arrogant, cocky person, and they probably said this out of nervousness or this idea that they need to kind of puff things up to greater than they are. So just be careful of this one too. Numerous people have said they like it. You know, my aunt likes it, my next door neighbor likes it, my professor likes it, ergo it must be good, right? So this is not an argument. The fact that someone likes your product is great. But as someone who's being pitched, either an investor or a potential employee or someone who might partner with you, I don't really care like that your mom or your neighbor or 100 people like it. Again, doesn't state anything specific about your product. So those are kind of the deadly sins. Anyone else have some deadly sins that they've heard in pitches that they go, hate that?
I don't like when I see people like really nervous,
Sure.
fidgeting. You know, they don't look like very confident. I feel like if you look like you want to be there and you're ready to be there, you'll be better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
People who like don't keep repair, they're reading off of a lot of notes. They don't know the stuff that they're talking about and setting out. It's like, well, you don't know it.
Why do I care? Yeah. No, I agree.
Pretty
Sorry.
much every person who speaks has like a phrase they'll use, like an or a basically this, and they'll say it every 3 words, and they don't really know where they're going with something.
The verbal tick.
Yeah.
Yeah, similar to what he was saying is that you can't be perfect, but you should be able to answer majority of the questions people ask you.
For sure.
It's really bad if you
For sure.
Because you don't know about your business.
Absolutely. And you know, on all of those points, watching yourself filmed is horrifying the first few times you do it. I'm not going to lie to you. But it's really useful to actually see yourself the way other people see you. I remember the first time I did it was many years ago, and I was so convinced that I was going to be so annoyed because I talk with my hands. I'm aware that I do that. But I thought, oh, before this thing gets filmed, like, don't do that. It would be so annoying. So I stood at the podium and I like gripped this podium in an attempt to not use my hands. And the instructor said to me, you were so good last week. Like, what was the camera freaking you out? Or like, why did you do that weird stone thing behind the podium? And I said, well, because I talk with my hands and like, I didn't want to watch myself on video doing that. And so that I'm trying to stop doing that. And she said, yeah, but it was so much worse. 'Cause part of your charm is your enthusiasm, and standing behind a podium and not moving is really not you. So the next week we did it, and I just got out from behind the podium and just acted a lot more naturally and went back to this hotel suite to watch the video, thinking like, oh, it's going to be so bad. And it was way better. So yeah, video yourself, even if it's on your iPhone. Like, video yourself and make yourself watch it. It will suck a little bit at the beginning, I'm not going to lie to you. But it's useful. The other thing that I'll say on those points is people get nervous about speaking, right? They think, oh, like there's gonna be all these people, I'm nervous, I'm gonna memorize it. Because if I memorize it, it'll be awesome. Because then I won't have to worry about forgetting anything. If you're excellent, like you have a little sidebar as an actor and you're very confident that you can totally memorize 60 seconds, 3 minutes, 7 minutes, however long the pitch is, do it. But let me give you this caution. I have seen so many people who have memorized something, get up on stage, they're genius for about 45 seconds, and then they literally miss like the next word, and it totally freezes them. They sit on stage and they're thinking, oh, like, because they're searching for that one word that links to the next concept. And had they just spoken a little more naturally and not been so fussed with making it exactly the way that it was written, they would have been a whole lot better. So just be cautious. Know yourself. If you know you can do it and you can do it really well and it's 60 seconds and you can memorize it, have at it. Just know that if you lose your train of thought mid-sentence, it's really hard to recover from that, because you're not just trying to use a filler word to get your stride back. You're literally trying to remember the word, the exact word. Anyone else with bad? There's lots of bad, right? Gotta like love people when they get on stage. I've done this a few times for Tech Alliance, and we had David Cicerelli one year stand up and pitch as a means to try to make it easier for everyone else, because he's like, look I'm gonna go first, and then you don't have to worry. And he totally choked. He's an amazing speaker, and he's a wonderful, wonderful entrepreneur. And he didn't really prepare, because he was like, well, I've done this a million times, and stood up and just kind of went, oh. So now we joke and we say, even if you choke, like you could be David Cicerelli one day, and that's not too shabby, right? It's pretty good. So, you know, it's a different experience standing on stage and doing it. So practice on a stage too if you can. Like, figure out where you're going to be pitching and try to go there and do it a couple times so the room doesn't freak you out. Any other bad? Confidence, no verbal tics or no annoying verbal tics. No one else? Okay, I have some other ones that we will reveal later. Okay, so what makes a pitch good? Ideas? So someone who's confident, so the opposite of all the bad things. No verbal tics, they're confident, they get on stage, they know their stuff. But what else makes it good?
If they're passionate about the business and the product.
Totally. And you can see that, you feel it.
Even getting like the audience involved, so asking a question, not necessarily looking for an answer. But
Totally.
I was gonna kind of say that like engage kind of with the audience, deliver the message to the people that you're talking to, not just to like one person. Like look around, engage.
Absolutely.
Try and be like a little bit original, not as structured as.
Right? Because everyone's now used to, hi, my name is, my company name is, our company does X, I'm seeking Y in order to do ABC. Right? And we've heard that kind of a million times. So part of the trick now is, because it's been done one way so often, how are you going to know how you can do it well, but a little differently so people remember you? So this is what we're going to do first. We're going to kind of, and before we get into this, I want to get a sense of kind of who's who in this room. So if you guys would indulge me, I'd love to kind of name and like company, like the one-liner for your company.
Hi, my name's Nick. I own a comedy club called Cannon Comedy Club.
It's a great name.
Thank you.
Awesome. Why, sorry, just one sec. Why comedy?
To connect the community and to provide entertainment.
And are you a stand-up comic, or is this a passion, or?
Just a passion, no real profession.
Okay,
Just trying to get into it.
cool.
Provide a spot for other people who are passionate and talented in comedy who can actually start a career.
Wonderful. Well, the world needs to laugh more these days, that's for sure.
I'm Steven, owner of Sweetie Studios. It's a music studio where I mix and master people.
Cool.
And connect artists and bring them together. And yeah, that's pretty much what we do.
I love it.
My name's Arjun. I'm thinking of opening up like a franchise, like I'm leaning more towards like Kelsey's.
Sure. Okay, these are all, like, this is cool. These are all like bricks and mortar businesses. I love it, because people are all down this, I'm gonna do this marketplace and it's gonna be SaaS. And so I'm loving the fact that these are kind of 3 bricks and mortar businesses.
I'm Clayton. I want to open a dealership, like a used car dealership.
Okay,
I'm focusing around like older enthusiast vehicles. So
Okay.
I'm an enthusiast auto source.
cool. And you have, what's that guy's name that has that crazy antique auto show on his property?
Oh, Plunkett.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe there's like a partnership with Plunkett, or even an endorsement. Because I hear he and like Jay Leno are pretty tight.
Yeah, that'd be cool for others.
I'm Ashley, and I want to open my own childcare center.
Wonderful, wonderful.
I'm Cole, and I'm trying to get into a family business. It's still a startup. It's in the marijuana industry.
Cool. Lots of money.
Yeah.
We were just at an event, and all those guys that used to be cops are now all on your side of the table.
Yeah.
Julian Fantino was there. He's like very adamant about his marijuana distribution business, which is like pretty harsh on one side, but I think he smells the money.
Yeah.
I'm Brady, and I want to start a film production company.
Wonderful. Are you a film student here?
Yeah, I graduated from film studies.
Wonderful.
Hi, I'm Bhavishya, and I want to start a company where I provide financial services
Wonderful.
to young adults and also educate them about the importance of managing their finances.
That's amazing. We have lots of conversations about that at Sun Life, about the problem with millennials, and I keep saying there's no problem with millennials. The problem is this direction, not the other direction. So maybe you'll come and eat our lunch one day. There's a lot of people gazing at their navels, so the time is right. I think you have the advantage.
I'm Ivy. I'm starting 0/1, which is a game production studio.
Oh, wow.
I'm working on a third-person shooter RPG hybrid, focusing on fantasy elements.
You're in the right city for it. London hits above their weight on that stuff.
I'm aware there's 3 different indie studios in the city right now, and I've been looking into the government support as well.
That's wonderful.
I'm Liam. I'm studying an indie record label right now.
I love it. Look at all these music creative people. I spend my time in Waterloo with and I love them, software engineers, but this is so refreshing. You guys are all wanting to run actual physical locations that are creative and do cool stuff. Very different.
I'm Tamara. I'm looking into subscription boxes.
Okay, wonderful. What kind of box?
I'm thinking children, but I haven't found any exact niche yet.
Cool. Cool.
Robin, a few partnership ideas, some accessibility solution ideas.
Wonderful. It's needed.
Aaron, I want to start my own software development company.
Cool. What are you going to develop?
Virtual reality / augmented reality.
Awesome. What do you think the use case is?
Learning applications.
Wonderful. Well, that's fantastic. Get it into schools. Kids love that stuff. Get them off. They got to play video games for a little bit, and then they need to learn.
Well, games have been used a lot in learning scenarios. Minecraft is used at university for first-year physicists to learn
Wow.
electricity.
Wow.
Redstone. And there was I've heard a story of a teacher who played Grand Theft Auto with his 5-year-old kid to teach him colors.
That's cool. My kid plays Minecraft, and we were just somewhere, and I know nothing about video games, but I have 2 boys, so I feel like I'm going to get a crash course in video games. Right now, they just have Minecraft, which is, I feel, pretty good, educational, no downside. And we were at a friend's house, and they had all these shoot 'em up games, And I was like, well, they're kind of young for that, and this is how naive I am. I'm like, well, what about Grand Theft Auto? Not realizing that like that wasn't the wisest choice that I could have made as a mom. The shoot 'em up games would have been better, but I'm learning.
There's a lot of studies on the cognitive development of people who've been playing video games from a young age.
Right.
They've noticed they've been rather positive
Sure.
developmental uses.
Sure. Absolutely. Okay. Next row.
Oh, I'm Sylvia, and I'm going to be starting a pierogi food truck.
The world definitely needs more pierogies. Wonderful.
My name is Zach, and I'm going to start a smoothie and juice bar business thing.
I love it. Is it so like a physical location in like in a mall or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or there's some like store locations.
And do you have like a secret like ingredient or something that makes your smoothies different?
We're trying to have a lot of smoothies now still have a lot of sugar in them.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just trying to cut out the sugar. It might not taste as good, but we can market that.
Yeah.
Just like Buckley's.
Yeah.
I mean, I said that and you just said a sip, but you know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
Thank you.
It's okay. We'll level it up. We'll level it up.
Butlers or anything.
It's okay.
Hi, my name's Nick. I want to grow food in like an environmentally and sustainable way through the process of aeroponics.
Cool.
Farming, and kind of offer people a local option, which is pesticide-free.
I love it. What a cool idea. You know, I met someone at Small Business Center is doing a food incubator, and a couple of the businesses that were in that incubator were doing not that exactly, but something similar. So I think it's a trend, right? I think in London. Yeah, I think you might be onto something because there was 2 of them, all the same kind of idea, like self-sustaining, no pesticides, local, all those same themes. Yeah. Oh, wonderful. Cool. Well, if other people are doing it, it validates your business model.
Hi, I'm Sahil. I want to invent or launch a safety belt system for the cars.
Okay. To let them know that other cars are near?
No, safety belt system like that basically be that it is a compulsion to plug the belt in until and unless.
Okay.
Before doing that, your car won't start. So yeah.
Okay, when you commercialize that, you tell me, because the argument in our house is the 3-year-old taking a seatbelt off mid-drive and me going back and rebuckling him. So if you have some,
will have many more innovations on it.
if you can lock him in there,
Oh yes.
I would buy it.
Yes.
Because I spend a lot of time in the back seat doing one of these.
My main target group would be parents.
Yeah.
So yes.
Because we're like, how do we duct tape him into this seat? Because he's strong enough that he can do it, but not old enough to really, like he thinks it's funny. It's like, you're going to go through the windshield, dude. He's like, and then he just laughs. Oh, the windshield, like cartoons. I'm like, no, it's bad. Don't want you going through the windshield.
So duct tape is the answer.
Yeah, I don't know. But it sounds like this is the answer. Okay, so the first thing, oh, sorry, shoot. I didn't realize that you guys, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Arya, and I want to open a food truck, like considering that like large number of international students are coming to Canada to visit and to study over here. So like there are lots of Indians as well. So I want to come up with a food truck which has Indian products, so that like people can find it at their doorstep, like near college.
Sure. And all the rest of us that are just bored of eating very bland food. I'd be a huge customer as well. No one needs more sandwiches. We need more curries in the world. Healthy curries.
My name is Sahil, and I really want to start a healthy food industry.
Okay.
Especially for students. When you go out, you could do any good healthy fast food restaurant. They're mostly expensive.
Sure.
And if you see students, they can't afford that much.
Right.
Specifically want to make it for students.
I like that. That's a great idea because everything seems very expensive that is healthy. You know, $9 juices. It's like, I don't have $9 for juice.
Well, when it's expensive, very expensive. And non-students, they can't.
Right. No, I think that's really smart. Excellent.
Hi, my name is Ryan Kelly. I own Ascend Applications, and pretty much we try to make the web more accessible for everybody.
I love it. Tell me more about the accessibility.
Well, for people with visual limitations and that sort of thing,
Yep.
It's really difficult for screen readers to parse through web pages sometimes, so
Yep.
that often results in a loss of content for those people.
Yep.
So it really impacts how much information they can take in from the website.
So is it like a widget or something that kind of bolts into the website?
Well, the way that I design a website, I actually use standard like HTML attributes
Right.
So with somebody with a visual disability, generally they already have like programs on their computer.
Sure.
The only thing is that I use HTML attributes to really leverage that power.
That's wonderful. Okay, I think I've got everyone now. Okay, excellent. Okay, so this is great, guys. Like, what a cool room of like very traditional businesses, accessibility, couple software. I mean, woot woot to the software guys, because I know them very well. This is what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about kind of the minimum viable pitch components. So for all of you that are off building your MVPs, we're going to kind of do that for the pitch. So what are the moving parts? What's the minimum you need? Because the other trick of this is it's 60 seconds. It's like not a lot of time. And I like to joke that if you can do the 60 seconds, 7 minutes is going to be a walk in the park, because you're going to actually have time to talk things through. The trick with 60 seconds is you only have 60 seconds. So you have to be really, really thoughtful about what you say, what you don't say, and how you say it, because you don't have 7 minutes to kind of maybe go down a bit of a rat hole and then bring it back and kind of end with a bang. You got 60 seconds to just bring your A game for 60 seconds. Then we'll take the MVP pitch and we'll level it up a little bit. So it's almost like, how do we iterate from, here are the 8 or 10 things I know I need to say, let me give some thought to how I'm going to say them, the order I'm going to say them in. Then we'll add a little element that will level it up, and then I'll give you another little piece of secret advice to really elevate you above the crowd. Do something that not a lot of people do or think about, so that you can kick everyone's butt at Western. So part 1, MVP review. So first off, and people talked about this, it's easy to say, it's harder to do. Make the thing personal and be enthusiastic about it, because people actually really care about you and why you got into the thing that you're doing. Because everyone's human and we want to kind of relate to each other, and people are genuinely interested in that. People tend to forget this when they do a pitch, and they especially forget it when it's a 60-second pitch, because they get really stressed about the time and they just stand up and they're kind of like a robot. They just like blurt out all the things about their business and not necessarily the why. The first time we ran I taught this pitch competition at Tech Alliance, we had one of the guys who was building his MVP pitch. He stood up and he went on this long explanation. He was a civil engineer, and he was building a mobile water treatment testing kit. And so he stood up and did a lot of like science-y mumbo jumbo. You know, the whole room was kind of like, whoa, it's like, can't really understand it. Sounded really interesting, but when he sat down, I was like, that was really great. Why do you want to do this water treatment thing? It's very specific. And he stood up and he said, oh, because I travel to India a lot. I just had a baby. The next time we go to India, there's oftentimes places where we travel and I'm not sure if the water's safe. So, and I know it's a big problem, and he'd come up with all these different use cases. I was like, stop. Start with that. Start with, you know, I'm traveling and I have this baby. And he's like, well, no one cares really about me. And the whole room was like, no, start with that. Like, that's so much better. We care about your kid. We don't even know your kid, but we are nervous that your kid will be drinking unsafe water when you're traveling. So don't forget this. It's easy to forget. Tell us about the problem that you're solving. The challenge with pitching is you have all spent hours and hours, hundreds of hours maybe, thinking about this idea, how it could work, why you're doing it, how you're going to execute it. People get on stage and they forget to talk about the problem that they're looking to solve. They talk about the solution, right? I'm going to open up a healthy food business for students, and here's all the different products we're going to offer. And they forget to kind of take a step back and talk about, you know, this is what it's like to be a student that wants to eat healthy, and here are the options, and this is why I believe this to be a problem. And then the way I'm going to solve for this problem is, and go into the pitch. So this is important. You've done a ton of thinking about this. The people you're pitching to know nothing about what you're about to say. They are not in your head. They don't understand how you're thinking about the problem. So be clear about the problem that you're actually solving. Because the thing that might happen, and that often happens, is if people are clear about the problem you're looking to solve, you pitch your company or your idea, they may have suggestions on how to do it better if they know the problem that you're trying to solve first. If you just pitch me your concept and I'm not really clear on why you're doing what you're doing, I mean, I can judge you on how good you pitched it, but I can't really give you much else. Show your solution. If there is, oh, before I say this, can they bring a prop or?
Yes.
Okay. Sometimes I get shut down. It's like no props, no nothing. If there's anything that you can show, the expression a picture is 1,000 words is very true. So even if the business is not launched and you don't have like a picture of your storefront or your fabulous comedy club, think about ways to try to articulate the thing you're trying to do, whether it's a demo for the software guys, whether it's a picture, whether it's a prop that allows you to make an analogy. Think about something that you can do to show your solution. This one's a trickier one, especially for newer businesses. But if you think about if there's a way to do this, it makes that pitch a lot more powerful because you're in such a compressed time frame. If someone goes, oh, I get it, because you show them the picture, you're halfway there already. So if you have results, share them. So if you've run a trial, if you've talked to customers, if you've built a little MVP solution, whatever it is you have as a result, share it. If you don't have results, talk about some research, but ground this in like a fact or something that's verifiable. Yeah.
So like say it was a competitor and they have proof of it, could you use that as an example? Like the fact that they can do this faster, it can be done faster as like a research?
You can use that as a kernel. You might want to be careful. I don't think you want to invest any of your 60 seconds in talking about a competitor, but you could talk about the market.
The fact of this research.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
And don't be nervous to do this. Like people will often say to me, well, I don't have any results. I'm like, okay, but you have a website. How many people have hit your website? Oh, like 10,000. I'm like, that's super impressive. That's super impressive. If I'm hearing your pitch and you say, like, I've been able to generate 10,000 hits to my website, I would be very interested in that. Or we went to the Western Fair and we sampled our food and, you know, it only took us 45 minutes because people were so excited because the food was so delicious. It sounds kind of like a silly anecdote, but it's like, oh, okay, well, I don't know, maybe your food's horrible, but if you tell me that all these people like it, I go, I've never tasted it, but it must be good because everyone likes it. So if any result that you have, try to cement in on that. And this one's big, and this one's hard because, you know, I told you not to be cocky, but I actually think it's very important to talk specifically about why you. So we talked about there's kind of no original ideas anymore. Lots of people have comedy clubs, so why you? And I think for each one of you, you're passionate about your idea for a reason. So think about how you can communicate why you're the person to take this to the moon, right? Because talk is cheap and there's lots of good ideas and lots of really capable entrepreneurs. But think about either your educational background, your experience, something that happened to you in your life that may be the kernel for wanting to launch this business in the first place. Why are you uniquely qualified to be really successful at the thing you're pitching? It's a trickier one, but if you can do this well, it's really powerful, really powerful. I've heard people do this exceptionally well when it's a passion project for them and they explain how they came to the idea and you're like, oh, like I want you to be successful. This is so amazing and I believe that you're passionate and you will be. And then be specific. So every pitch is an opportunity. You're pitching for a reason. Sometimes people forget that too, right? If it's a pitch competition, it's kind of like an artificial reason in some ways, but there's always a reason. And there's lots of reasons why you might pitch. So competition is one of them. You know, you want to win $1,000. That's a pretty good reason to pitch. But there's lots of other reasons. You might be pitching to get investors. You might be pitching to try to convince someone to join your startup. You might be pitching to get someone interested maybe in partnering with you or being a distributor for you. So at the end of your pitch, you have to really think about what you want to ask for and be specific with that ask. So in a pitch competition, you might talk about how you would use $1,000, right? I would like to win, right? The ask is I want to win. And if I win, this is what I'm going to do with the money in order to further my business. That's not the only way to answer this, but it's one way to think about, because in some ways, a pitch competition is like an artificial construct, right? So it's not really like you're pitching real investors, But think about this, because if you close strongly with a specific ask to the people earlier that said, wow, it's really great when the person's confident and they really know a lot, this will make you sound more confident, it will close it out really nicely, and it will be very clear to people what it is that you're trying to get to. So with that, I want to give you guys, let me just check on the time. I want to give you guys about 15, 20 minutes to take a look at those component parts and start writing out, and if you're digital, you can type it. If you're old-fashioned like me, you can write it out. Sometimes it's helpful to write it out so you can move it around a little bit. Write out those component parts and kind of write out that skeleton of a pitch. Yep, and I'll be wandering around and you can ask me questions.
Is this video going to be posted somewhere where we can all access?
I'm sure. Will the video be posted somewhere so they can access it? Okay.
If you guys want, we can give you some markers and stuff if you want to use the tables, whatever you like. If you want to use your own, whatever. We'll get some markers and use it for later.
Does that make sense, guys? And I'm around for questions. I'll kind of circulate around. And
so, slide that's just like the bullet points of your slides?
I'll go backwards. Ask, be specific. Why you? Then show results, if you have any. Demonstrate your solution or use a prop or show something visually. Tell me about the problem that you're looking to solve for. And why is this personal? What's the personal element? What's the thread that might weave some of this stuff together? Cool? Okay. Have at it until 4. And let me know. Put up your hand if you have questions or concerns. And you can spread out too. Yeah. So for the people that wanted the kind of summary of the pitch elements, this would be the time to take out your camera and just take a picture of this. So this is the crib notes, right? What led you to the problem, why is this a problem for others, demo overview, results today, why you make the ask. I forgot I had this slide in here. So this is kind of the crib notes.
You talk about the special sauce?
The special sauce comes later, man. You have to know the rules before you can break them, and you need to get your MVP of a pitch before we can monkey with it. But I love it. Sure, sorry. Let me away.
I was just getting it focused, and then you walk right in front of it.
That's okay. Okay, so how'd that go, guys? In terms of, everyone has like some little skeleton of a bunch of things that they're going to say, they could say at some point. Feel okay? You know, you're shaking your head.
No.
No. Okay, that's okay. But you have something on paper to work with.
Sure.
Okay. Sure. It's hard, right? It's hard. It's hard. And I think for people that found this challenging, if you start thinking about this as like individual parts and then making a recipe of the parts, it makes it easier. If you sit down and think like, how do I write a 60-second pitch, soup to nuts? It's a lot harder than kind of trying to answer some of these questions independently and then saying, okay, so how do I assemble all these parts into something that makes sense as a whole? Because usually what will happen is there'll be a natural order, and there's no right order. I've seen people start with a demo. I've seen people start with a personal story. Like, you can do this in whatever order makes sense. But if you think of them in little component boxes and then try to assemble them, sometimes that makes it easier. So I'm going to play you a little video of one of my faves. Jason Kalinakis founded Weblogs in 2003. My age is showing. But he was supported by Mark Cuban. America Online agreed to buy Weblogs for $30 million. Fun fact, he bought the first Tesla. So he's a Tesla investor. He's kind of a big deal. He's very funny. And I like him because he's very real. Because I think a lot of this, people kind of forget that these are all This stuff that needs to be real, right? This is not a game.
And or the product. It's very, you know, I'm an email guy, so the worst thing is, oh, can I get an hour or two of your time? That doesn't exist. You know, the hour or two does not exist for people. Just getting every random person an hour of your time. And so be it right down and my time. So being succinct is the point of saying, do you think that a social network for language should exist in the world? Here's my mock-ups and designs. I will respond to those, and I'll answer. And then I get sucked into like a 3, 4, 5 email thread back and forth with people. So I think that's, and it really depends on the investor. Some people like decks, and some people like projections. Like I never read decks, I never read projections. I just look at the product. I can tell literally in seconds if this product is going to be good or not, or if this entrepreneur is good or not, with a high degree of certainty. Because your clarity of thought on your product and your passion for it and the simplicity of it and the design of it, that just all speaks very quickly. And you know, doing TechRich 50 and then launch and seeing hundreds of companies a year as an angel investor, like it's just very clear to know when somebody is onto something. And when the email is 3 or 4 pages long, it doesn't work. So when I send people emails about what I'm doing or about an investment I'm making that they should know about, it is incredibly short. I think that this company is important because they're working on this, and if they make it work, this could happen. And here's a screenshot. And it's pretty awesome. And that's it. So like when I get asked like from an investment, can you forward me Elon Musk? It's usually like, let's not start with Elon Musk and Mark Cuban. Like, who do you realistically want as an investor? Let's not waste their time. Unless there's some really compelling reason, like it's about car batteries or it's about, you know, NBA teams. But be super succinct. And entrepreneurs are terrible at that. They're terrible at being succinct. Like,
because it's big things that they're living.
Right, you're in the thick of it. Like, you know, when a chef comes to your table, they're not like, so, this was a cow at some point, and we cut it up, and then this is the steak, and then we put it on a grill, and it was salt, and a guy drove it here, and here's the map of how we got here, right? They're just like, voila.
Some hipster restaurants do provide something else.
Right, and then you just go like this, and you take a bite, and you go, oh, that's delicious, right? And when Travis showed me Uber for the first time, he took out his phone and said, check this out. And I was like, okay, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Right, like, when Space Monkey, you know, explained their idea to me, it was like, you know the peer-to-peer thing? Well, imagine if you had a 2 terabyte hard drive, and 1 terabyte was your stuff, but the other terabyte was everybody else's stuff, and it was all stored around a cloud, and there was no data center. And I was like, you don't have to pay for a data center? That would be like Dropbox getting your data center for free. That would change the entire dynamic. And they're like, right. And I was like, oh, I have this problem. Because I have video files, and they can't ever sync. I can't sync 200 gig of video files to Dropbox reasonably, but I can put it onto the hard drive and have it encrypted and put it into Tools Business. Like, it would just make total sense. Now, will it work, Space Monkey work or not? We'll find out. But he was able, the team that was able to explain it very quickly and why it was important and why it was important right now. You have to be able to explain things in a sentence or two, and including the product. If you don't want to put yourself in the wrong bucket, when you talk about what you're going to do, you are damaging your credibility. So when we, pivoted Mahalo to Inside, I didn't talk to the investors about what we were building. When it was ready, I said, I want to send you a test flight. And what we're doing is kind of exciting for this reason. That's it. Don't pre-sell. Don't tell them why it's important, like, before you've made it. Like, you just put yourself in the bucket of talkers, and everybody's a talker, and everybody's got ideas. That means nothing. What you want to do is have a gorgeously designed product, and you want to have it be simple and elegant and solve a problem. And when that happens, you see this as a journalist, you have that filter. It's like, okay, I can't write a story about you if you don't have a product.
Yeah.
And you get pitched on people who want you to do a story before they have a product. And you're like, well, that's not how it works.
Right.
And especially now, the benchmark is so high. I mean, not only are people, it used to be that people would invest if you wrote a business plan, and maybe they would invest if you did mock-ups. Now it's like, well, do you have traction? Not even a product. People expect you to not only have built the product, they're starting to now switch to, oh, you built the product? Come back to me when there's some level of data and traction. The benchmark is higher and higher and higher and higher. And you're not, getting back to competition, being competitive in life and fighting it out, like, you are not, an island as an entrepreneur. You're in competition with everybody else. everything has leveled up. The kids coming out of Y Combinator, kids in air quotes, they understand like conversion funnels and metrics. I mean, they might be gaming it a little bit too, and whatever. They might be too good at it, like they're too good at presenting and they're too good at making a hockey stick.
Yeah.
You know, like I could buy $1,000 of Facebook one week and then $2,000 of Facebook ads and $3,000, and it would make the curve go up too. Like you don't get too much credit for that. So you have to sort of parse through that. But you are in competition with people making very refined products now.
Yeah.
And this is expectation by some people. They're delusional that people are going to take a meeting when you haven't built the product yet or you don't have a mock-up of it. But when somebody has a mock-up, I will look at it. But it doesn't take an entrepreneur, investors will click. Investors will look. So show them and let them click it. But don't ask them for the thing that they have the least amount of time.
Right.
And you're trying to optimize to get their time when you should be trying to optimize to make a product that then makes them want to give up time.
Right. And don't say you'll be the this of that. Like
That's
the
always-
Salesforce for cats. Like that's not the way to be succinct.
Yeah, I mean, I think also
Great
like
business.
Dissing, that's another big no, is dissing really
Yeah.
successful stuff. So like, we talked about the accelerators here a couple of years ago, like, this, pitch comes out of one of the accelerators and it's like, we are Pinterest for this, and Pinterest is terrible because of these reasons. And I said, let me just stop you for a second. Who taught you how to pitch your idea like this? And they're like, the accelerator. And I was like, okay.
What accelerator was it?
I don't want to say, but anyway. And it was a reoccurring theme, and I was like, this is terrible. Do not ever go into a meeting with an entrepreneur or with an investor and tell them that one of the greatest unicorns to ever come out of the unicorn, barn is ugly. It's a fucking unicorn. Like, you're like, that unicorn sucks. Nobody says unicorn sucks, right? Nobody ever said that. It's a fucking unicorn. Respect the unicorn and like, go find your own. I mean, that's the big sort of craziness, like,
People lived in a barn.
whatever, there's a big unicorn barn, and one comes out every year, Like, if you're lucky enough to see the unicorn, like, consider yourself privileged. You'll be like, I shot the unicorn. Like, cut the unicorn's head off, like, and put it on my wall. Like, I'm not unicorn hunting. Like, let the unicorn be free, go get your own. And that's always a terrible thing. But now, it could be parallel. So the Uberification of stuff is actually happening.
Right.
And metaphors do happen. Like, the feed was something that Facebook stole from Twitter, and Twitter got from, I don't know where, but where, dig came from delicious, came from /God, Reddit came from there. So you
But
can
they didn't
take
pitch it as the this of that. I mean, that's
you can use the format and the design and evolve it. That's fine, and that's actually wise. It's wise to look at the formats that work and say that works. Users understand it. I'm going to leverage that work and create something different or better and level it up. Sure, it's familiar, but God, I mean, I saw somebody who was doing Pinterest at EBU the other week, and I was like, "What were you trying to do when you started this?" And she was like, "Well, I had this problem when I tried to solve for this, and I thought that this would be the way to do it, but I was, and I was like, I was really interested in your original problem, but you didn't do this like base level divergent thinking of like, and ideate on that idea and make something unique. Take everything you've done, throw it away.
Yeah.
Find a great designer UX person, pay them $3,000, then find another one and pay them $3,000, and tell them your idea, and then let them come back with something that solves for your idea. And then iterate 3 or 4 cycles with them. And then you might come up with something wholly unique that doesn't look derivative, and it will cost you $6,000. Like, I put $3,000 on my credit cards for Silicon Valley Reporter and 60-day photocopy. You could have sucked, but it didn't. I captured people's imaginations, and I got it, but I didn't anyway.
$6,000 is not, even in terms of not high growth entrepreneurship, like opening a restaurant would be more than $6,000.
Well, your restaurant would be $6 million in this town. It's not a lot of money. I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Right? It's small. You can do so much with such a small amount.
Right.
So what do you guys think of my buddy Jason Kaliganakis? He's funny, right?
Good at painting a picture.
He's good at pitching, right? He's good at painting a picture.
You like scroll over those tabs at the top. Yeah, scroll over those tabs right there. But they're hidden because it's there you go.
Oh, there we go. Awesome. Thank you. Tech support from the crowd. Gotta love it. So he said a couple things, right? He said some of the things I said, but he's better, he's smarter, he's more charming. But he also said some different things. What did you guys hear from his little funny snippet of his interview?
Unicorns, man. Unicorns.
Don't shoot the unicorn. Don't disrespect the unicorn.
You talked a lot about being creative and doing things differently.
Absolutely. What else?
Have a product.
Absolutely. Be real. Don't be a talker, right? Be
That's
humble.
gonna show. Like he says, how like people, like investors and stuff want to see things with grounds. You know, like competition's getting more fierce, so people who already have something on the goal are probably going to be looked at more than people who just have an idea but just talk.
Absolutely.
Don't ask investors for their time, make them want to give you their time.
It's way trickier, but way more effective. And you can kind of see how people like him, and even myself, I've done lots of judging, and it's human nature. Someone stands up and goes, this is my business, and you're a human being, so immediately your brain starts going, what is this like? Oh, it's this, they're trying to do this. And you have to figure out a way to have people listen to you rather than like trying to think ahead of you. So if you pitch me in a way that doesn't allow me to do a mental shorthand, I'm forced to actually listen to what you're saying because my mental shorthand might be wrong. And I've seen that happen. When someone's pitched their idea and a judge is like, I don't think this is a good idea for these reasons, and then the entrepreneur's like, no, like you misunderstood it. It's not necessarily that they didn't explain it well. It was the judge did shorthand and was like, yeah, I know what you're talking about and I'm not even really listening to you. So being unique, being different, being authentic and real and doing things a little differently will kind of overcome some of those things for you. So here's the first level up, and you guys have kind of alluded to it. So each of you have component parts of your pitch. You could stand up, read them kind of soup to nuts. It would probably sound very much like, hi, my name's Anna Foat. I have a company that does this. The total market opportunity for this industry is Y. I think if I could do X of Y, I could get to ABC. Boring, right? Checks the box in terms of, is that like an MVP of a pitch? Yes. You hit on all the notes, you said all the things that you were supposed to say, but like, not great, right? Just very, could only possibly be so-so. So now we're gonna talk about, how do you make this a story? How do you make this actually interesting? How do you make me kind of sit on the edge of my seat and go, why are you doing this? I want to know more about this business and you and the potential. So improve, or let's take it up a notch. The story is the thing that people will remember. No one will remember the market penetration. You're probably very passionate about those numbers. I couldn't tell you anyone who's pitched me what those numbers were because you forget them 2 seconds after they're out of your mouth. The thing that I remember is the people that had really great stories or the people that were able to communicate in a really different way what they were looking to do. And that's human condition too, right? As much as we want to create connections and do shorthand, we also are very invested in hearing someone's story. So start thinking now as you look at your component parts about how you kind of weave those together. And I've said it a couple times, there's no right order to do a pitch. I've seen them really successfully done every which way from Sunday. And part of the reason that people do them in different orders is because of the construct that they're trying to attach to the pitch that creates that story. And active defiance and humor can be really powerful. So again, this idea of being a little different, everyone kind of gets nervous and wants to kind of say it start to finish, do it well. And they forget that a provocation at the beginning of a pitch can be very powerful. We talked about, here's the state of the gaming industry, and I believe that there's a better way. It's a bit of a provocation, right? You're like one guy at Fanshawe, you love games, and you're like, Ubisoft doesn't do this well, right? Nintendo doesn't get this. It's a bit of a provocation, but it's a good provocation, because I'm like, okay, I would like to hear why you think you could do it better. So these can be really, really, really effective. Whether you're pitching or even selling something. I think the last time I did this presentation, I talked about a proposal or a pitch that we were doing to IBM. Someone was asking me about working at IBM. And we had co-op students who went off and built this mobile app. on their own because they were awesome rock star coders. And they came to me and they said, hey Anna, we built this app using IBM technology. And I was like, oh, that's cool, like show me how it works. So they're showing me, and I said, what, like who are you working with at IBM on this? Like it's pretty good. And they kind of giggled and they said, nobody. And I was like, oh, so how did you get the APIs? And they were like, well, we kind of borrowed them. It's probably not really legit, but we have a friend. And of course, I was like, illegal. So I said, okay, don't tell anyone what you're doing. Keep doing it, because it's good. But like, keep it quiet. Because like what you're doing, we have legal agreements and API disclosure. You're not really supposed to be monkeying around with the source code. They get really edgy about that. But keep doing it, just be safe. And we flew to Somers and we were pitching it to a huge room of executives who did not get what we were trying to do. Because at that time, IBM really wasn't doing a lot of mobility. We took one of their products and made it mobile friendly. And you know, literally I'm standing in front of this very fancy table with like 30 very fancy people. And as I'm talking, I'm like looking at the room thinking, yeah, I don't think they understand like what the hell I'm talking about at all. And so it was almost like, at this point, it's like, I got nothing to lose. So we asked a question. We said, do you guys believe that collaboration, and some of you guys are probably too young to even know this, but it used to be that you had a big blue LAN cable all the time because nothing was wireless. And so we were trying to make the analogy of, do you guys believe that collaboration can happen beyond that blue cable? Or is your view of the world that everyone's sitting at a desk with a laptop with a blue cable plugged into it and that's how they're working? And we thought it was a pretty simple answer because it's like, what? People have phones, like phones are gonna be a thing, like it's kind of a big deal. And they all kind of sat there and they were like, yeah, maybe. And that answer speaks volumes, right? Because it's like, that was a provocation to see if they said, yeah, of course we believe in the thesis that like smartphones are gonna be a big deal, but they were not really that convinced. And we could have spent another hour talking at them, but we just stopped. We're like, okay, so we need to kind of go away and figure out how to explain to you in a way that's gonna resonate with you that this is actually a really big deal. Outside of this little app, it's a really big deal. And it took us a couple months and we went back and we did it, but this can be really useful. You know, a provocation. It's a risky thing to do, so you have to kind of think about it carefully. You don't want to offend anyone. You don't want to push the envelope too far. But if you get stuck, you might think about provocations that you could use in your pitch that will make it interesting.
And you think about autonomous vehicles, right? If we did a provocation about that a while ago, people would say, what?
Yeah.
And now they're like,
It's just a thing. I'm going to give you a couple tricks here. The intent is not for you to use all of them. You probably couldn't use all of them. And some of them work better with different ideas. So these are just ideas. This isn't a checklist. Friendly defiance and good humor, right? This is the thing that I think people tend not to understand. People believe that when you're selling something or pitching something that you beat someone over the head with reason, right? I'm going to tell you the 17 ways from Sunday, this is a great idea with market dynamics and how great my product is and what people want. But they fail to recognize that people make decisions first emotionally. So think of yourself, if you want to spend money on anything, going out to a restaurant, buying a car, even the school you end up attending. You kind of go onto campus and go like, yeah, it feels good. And then when you make the decision to come, then of course you say, well, Fanshawe's so great because of these reasons, like rational reasons. But I think a lot of decisions people make very emotionally first. So you have to kind of think about how you hook them emotionally. And eventually, once they're kind of smiling and nodding and doing one of these, then you definitely need to back up that emotional feeling with some reasons that they can attach themselves to. But don't forget that people get emotionally attached to ideas. So don't over-rotate too much on the reason and forget that you kind of got to hook people and get them interested in caring. Once they're interested, then their mind will go to, how do I justify this? Create focus, especially when you have 60 seconds. You literally have no time to lose. Every single sentence, word that you use should be there for a reason. So it's your story to tell. There's lots of ways to tell all of your pitch stories, and some of the conversations that I had were literally like, should I say this or should I say that? You really need to think about how you're going to create focus, because there's always more data, there's always more research, there's always more points of view, but you really need to think about how you want people to focus and be really thoughtful about what you include. Create intrigue, if you can create intrigue. You know, this can sometimes be a provocation, or sometimes it can just be like a twist. Imagine if no one owned cars anymore. Everything was a shared car. People go, well, how would that work? Right? And then they're immediately interested in the idea. Imagine if eating healthy didn't need to cost a ton of money. Right? And people go, okay, well, how do you do that? Healthy food's expensive. Well, let me explain to you how I'm going to do that. That hook can be really, and if the hook's personal, so I talked about the guy with the water treatment plant and his daughter, it's like hook, personal, amazing. If you can create tension, that can be really effective too. I saw someone pitch where they talked about all their success, and then they kind of mid-pitch, it was really cool the way they did it. They created a lot of tension and said, but if things don't go this way, and and all these other factors continue the way they're going, this is what's going to happen. And like you could see, lots of people that were listening, they were right into the story. So tension can be good. I think people tend to shy away from these sorts of devices because they get very wrapped up in this is what a pitch is supposed to sound like. But all of these techniques really can be effective at making you sound different. And it could be one sentence within your pitch that leverages one of these ideas. And if you're following along, I mean, really what I'm telling you is you need to create a story. You need to take those component pitch elements that describe your product, service, or business and figure out how you make those things into some kind of story with a beginning and a middle and an end and some kind of arc, right? Whether it's tension or intrigue or provocation, so that there's a structure to your pitch. Questions on that before we get to the magic secret stuff? Do those things make sense? Anyone want to try out an idea on the group? Like, what of those devices? What speaks to you in terms of like, well, that could kind of work with my thing?
Are you saying tension, like building? Can you elaborate on that?
Tension, like I'm listening to you and you're explaining your business, and then you say something that either I didn't expect to hear. So we talked about the games, like the entire model of monetization of video games could be better. It's like, that's pretty, it's probably, yeah, like it's a big thing to say. Or if you kind of do a 180 in your presentation and say something that maybe people weren't expecting to hear. Other people, yes? The story? Just like getting the story behind, I mean, that's the key, right? Because then I'm listening and I'm enjoying it, and it's fun, and...
Similar like a story, using a story that everyone can relate to, but then kind of drawing out the point you're trying to make, and then showing how you can kind of create a solution.
Totally. I've seen lots of people open with, have you ever had this happen to you? And then they'll describe the problem that their product is solving for. And you get people going, yes, like, yeah, and then they're immediately interested.
And yeah, you grab their attention and move forward.
Totally. Other people? Do you want to spend 5 minutes kind of individually, because I don't want to put you totally on the spot here. Think about some of these elements that you might include in your pitch, or take the elements that you've written out as like a laundry list, and think about how you might reshuffle them to make it a better story or more compelling story or more unexpected, I guess. Yes?
Can I jump in for a second?
Of course.
Just for some people have already come, but we do a full hour storytelling workshop. So I think the next one is mid-March, but yeah.
It's
So
very
it'll be
powerful.
after the pitch competition, but
Holly's in her office too, and she's a pro at this.
Use Holly.
I run my own business doing spoken word poetry, so that's like actually my business is telling stories. So I use that as an example of how to weave in a lot of what we talk about, weaving in emotion and cooking and all that stuff. So, yeah.
There you go, there's your resource. So after today, before the pitch competition, if you're struggling with what device to use, there you go. Okay, take 5, and then we'll do the last part. Okay, so how does that feel, guys? I know I've been talking at you and making you think and writing stuff down. This stuff's hard, it's not easy. If it was easy, everyone would do it. It's tough. How do you feel? A little more ready than you did at, 5 minutes to 3? Good. What are you still kind of struggling with before I give you the magic secret sauce? Can't do that until I feel like everyone's like good on a basic level.
I'm still kind of like having the different sections instead of them being section, having them flow from one to the next in a really natural way that lets me keep the story flowing.
That is the trick, right? So when you assemble the component parts and then you figure out the order and you figure out what vehicles you're using, that those segues between the points that you're trying to make, you'll probably spend a lot of time working on those. People that are extremely good at pitching have given a ton of thought to how those ideas relate to one another. I'm sure Holly will be a great resource too, because that, if you do that really well, it's magic, right? If you don't do it as well, it's good, but maybe a little choppy, and it's hard to do it well. And you have to tinker with it, right? Like say it out loud and do it 10 times and be like, oh, like I'm hiccuping over here, and it doesn't flow as well.
Just writing it out for like the first little bit, I rewrote half of it 2 or 3 times just because, no, I can't go into that section. Okay, well, if I go into this one, I can, and it's a lot of rewriting.
You'll know when it feels right. Like when it feels right, you'll be like, oh, yes.
And I'll give you some spoken poet wisdom. You have to say it out loud. Because I write things all the time, and then I go to say it, and it doesn't flow. So you could write it and think it's the most beautiful thing ever. You have to say it out loud to figure out, because you'll know, and as you say it, you'll be like, that doesn't, there's a glitch in there somewhere, and you'll just feel it. So yeah, you really do.
I even read important emails out loud over and over again to make sure I got it right.
It really does help, like getting more senses into it. And then, you'll have a lot of respect too for people that you see that do it extremely well. And I tell you 99.999% of the time, it's not that they're just uniquely gifted from God. They've practiced a lot and they've given it a lot of thought. It's not magic, it's literally hard work. Hard work to make something seem like magic, right? Questions, concerns? You have like a formula now, you have the list of ingredients for your recipe, you have some tools and tricks to ratchet it up a little bit.
In terms of like the why me section, is it always about like why you are uniquely qualified to handle the problem? Or
Could be why you are passionate about it.
why you're passionate?
It could be that. I've heard that done extremely effectively. It could be based on, a combination of skills. I've heard that done really well too, where someone has a really unique educational background and they kind of say like, I'm a pretty rare human being because of this and this and this and this, and for those reasons, I'm the right person to do this.
And the reason I ask is also because there's like barriers to entry as like a younger person who might have like a ton of money.
Sure.
How can you make yourself stand out?
Sure.
So.
Well, and I've also heard people tell a personal story unrelated to the business. You gotta be careful, because for this you have 60 seconds, so you may not have time to do this. But I've heard people talk about something that happened to them that was unrelated to the business as a way to explain that they're young but they have a ton of tenacity and they never give up, right? And that can be effective too, because people kind of go, oh, okay, well, if you could do that, then maybe you could do this. Okay, cool, last section, and then I'll let you leave, and I bet you'll be ahead of time. The magic secret sauce that no one thinks about. So lots of people go and they think about what they're gonna say before they stand on stage. A subset of those people think about how to say the thing they're gonna say well. A subset of those people, so like narrow, 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 will actually say it out loud in practice, but you guys are all gonna do all that. A subset of those people will really tinker with it till it's perfect. But the secret sauce that a lot of people forget is thinking about the audience to whom you will be pitching. So you create this pitch in your own mind, it's a beautiful thing, you spend 20 hours on it, you've read it, it flows, it's amazing. What I would say to you is, if you want to be exceptional, think about the people that you're pitching this pitch to. Who are they? And is the way that you've articulated your pitch right for them? So put yourself in their shoes, and I'll give you a couple examples of how you might tweak things depending on who you're talking to. If your pitch judges are all extremely technical people and you're pitching a software product, you may want to pitch it much more technically, knowing that the audience you're pitching to are super technical. Conversely, if you have a super technical product and you're pitching to people who do not have a software engineering background, you have to be super careful that you don't go into the weeds because you'll lose them because they won't understand what you're talking about. Acronyms, same. You know, you can use acronyms or use jargon to signal to a group of judges that understand that jargon, that you're kind of part of their club. But know that if it is jargon and they're not familiar with it, it's super off-putting. If you have very senior people, getting to the point is really important for people like that. Versus other people who might really want to hear the story, and they'll give you 3 or 4 minutes just to kind of blather on. But if you get a very senior executive, they'll give you 15 seconds and then go, what are you trying to say? Like, I have no time for you, so like get to the point. So really think about the person that you're pitching to. And when I work with entrepreneurs, they'll come up with a pitch and we'll figure out how to make it a minute, how to make it 5 minutes, how to make it 10 minutes. And then oftentimes we'll take that and go, what happens if the audience is really technical? Tweak it technical. What if the audience is really lay people? What if the audience is all senior executives? And so really it's the same pitch, but a little different tone to it. If you know things about the people that you're pitching to, you probably don't have time in 60 seconds to weave that in. But you know, you might think about how the people you're pitching to would react to what you're pitching. You know, if you're Jason Kalianakis and someone's pitching a battery, rechargeable battery, knowing that he has the first Tesla and knowing he's Elon Musk's buddy, you might reconsider how you do that pitch to him. So it's something to consider. You know, I leave this with you because in a 60-second pitch with judges that you may or may not know, this may not be something that you can use, but as you go forward with your business, really keep in mind what the other people want to hear. If you talk to a banker, they're going to want to hear financials. If you talk to an investor, they're going to want to hear financials. You're trying to recruit someone to work for your company because your company is awesome and you're growing. They don't necessarily really want to hear the financials right away. You want to know the passion and the vision of your company. So just think about kind of how much you rotate on any of those pieces of your recipe. Before the pitch, aim to be excellent, raise your expectations of yourself, possibilities, relax, get in your flow. The more you do this stuff, the easier it gets. So the first time will be kind of terrifying, but don't worry, no one's actually died in the middle of a pitch competition. Practice it a lot and just try to relax, right? But know that if you put in the work and prep, it's 60 seconds, get up there, knock them dead, walk off the stage. The tip here really too is really think about looking at the room and trying to be comfortable. And that's why earlier I said video yourself, because you'll see things that you do that you can maybe correct before you're standing on stage. Even something simple like, at the end of your pitch, don't scurry off the stage. You see people do this all the time, and I know why they do it, because they're like in the audience going, who's next? And then they call your name and you're like, and you stand there and you're pretending to be all confident. You're not really fooling anyone, but you're doing like not a bad job of it. And then as the last word is coming out of your mouth, you're literally like booking it to the side. It just undermines how great your pitch was because people go, man, they must have been so scared. They like ran off the stage. And I've seen it a lot where it's a really great pitch and you don't really see that the person's nervous. But then as the last word's coming out of their mouth, they're halfway into the side of the stage.
Is this competition about who can actually pitch the best or who can get their idea across? Like their own business.
Best idea or most effective articulation of the idea.
Best articulation of the idea.
No, but it's a good point.
I think in this case it's pitching.
Yeah.
I think the idea has to be there, but no, we're not going to judge you based on
The
whether
idea?
we think your business idea is going to make the most money. No, it's how well you pitch it, how well you make us believe in you, and the story part of it. Okay.
Not viability of the business.
No, it's not viability. I mean, clearly there has to be a viability of the business if it's nothing that's ever going to work. But I don't know how you're going to convince us to buy it or an investor to invest in it. But no, it's not the best business in the world. It's about the person who can articulate and weave a story and entrance us, give us some kind of a wow factor. That's what
we had a pitch last week at Laurier, and when we were in the judging room, so I'll give you like, you know, behind the scenes in the judging room, quite a few of us were pretty hot to trot on this girl's pitch. She was just exceptional. And she was so great at storytelling, and she had everyone on the edge of their seat, and she was really, really good. And as we're back and forth in this judging room, the one guy says, I totally agree with all the feedback that everyone said about how great this girl was, but I didn't really get like this part of her business. And we were all like, oh, she kind of bamboozled us with how fabulous she was, but she didn't actually explain how it would work. And so we all kind of sat there and went, oh, like we were so wowed by her ability to kind of enrapture us and tell the story that the guy had a really good point, which is she did not explain the mechanics of how this thing was going to work. And she ended up not being in the top 3. She was into the top 3, and more than half the room thought she should be kind of 2 or 3. And then it was like, oh, she was so good at the story, we forgot that she didn't really tell us the business. And that was kind of a requirement to explain it. So it just shows the power of, if you do these things well, it can overcome all kinds of maybe things that are not fully baked in your business.
And the judges are going to have criteria, so they're going to be looking for those things. And we've got a form here for you, but basically they are credibility, clarity and communication skills. So, you know, can they hear you? Are you speaking clearly? Interest to invest, like willingness to buy. So, you know, there's the viability piece, so it is one piece of it. Your enthusiasm, so your passion for this. If you can't sell it, whatever. The wow factor. So that's the thing you need to think about, is that wow piece. And then the ask is clear and understood. What is it that you're doing? Make sure you articulate, you know, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I need. And make sure you do it in 60 seconds, because unfortunately we've had some really great pitches, and 60 seconds goes off, and they missed 2 things that they meant to say and didn't get around to saying.
That's a good segue. Practice makes perfect. I said this before, but I'll say it again. Like, take the good, create a story, avoid the bad, but practice the crap out of it. The more you practice, the better you'll be. The less nervous you'll be, the more it will flow, the more you can make adjustments. It really does require practicing. In front of your iPhone, in front of your bathroom mirror, to your mom, your roommate, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, whomever will listen to you. But do it like a few dozen times. It sounds like a lot of times, but the first couple, you're really just reading it, you're not pitching it. It'll take you a bit to get to the point where you're pitching it and then working out the kinks. Don't forget, you're awesome. Own it. Thanks, guys. Good luck.
I have the applications here if you want one and you want to try your hand at pitching on the 28th. It's also going to be 3 to 5, and it is a Wednesday. Yeah.
And for those of you, like, it is a pitch competition, so, you know, you're doing this to see if you can do and win some money, but in the long run, what you're learning here is how to talk about your business. So that when you're in an elevator, walking down the street, at an opportunity at a craft show, or wherever you are with your stuff, you can talk about it very succinctly, very quickly, get your idea across. So this is a skill that you're gonna need moving your business forward, whether it's for a pitch competition for $1,000 or whether it's just to try to move your business forward. Because people don't have a lot of time to listen to you go drone on for 20 minutes to try to explain what it is you do. If you can get it to them very succinctly in 60 seconds, they're gonna stay and listen for more details or start to ask you questions. That's the biggest thing. If someone starts to ask you questions, you have more opportunity to give more information. So don't think of it just as an assignment for Josie's class or an opportunity to have a pitch, win $1,000 in a pitch competition. Think about it how it's going to advance your business moving forward. Okay?
These are also really good points for if you're doing interviews, you work for someone else as well.
Yes, this is true. This is very true.
And guys, just so you know, this is due back in our office on next Thursday, so that's February 22nd. And then we'll put it together.